If you're considering backing the second printing of Vampire the Masquerade chapters, which just launched over on Kickstarter now, and you're scrolling through the comments, swinging over to BGG, popping into the Facebook forums, and reading through some of the comments on the videos that I've put out, you might see one word pop up every now and then. That word being errata. A correction, a fix, something in the rules that needed to be refined in order for the game to flow smoothly, to flow as it should. In this video, I want to talk about what the errata is, why, as far as I understand, it exists, and how consequential it has been for our game experience. Along with that, I want to take a look at the app that is being developed as a solution for the errata, along with the other ways that Flyos Games is trying to make solutions available to the first wave of backers, people who received the very first printing of the game. A lot of those people are the same ones who discovered some of these challenges and some of the frustrations. And so when you see someone commenting, keep in mind they're often coming from a perspective of someone who discovered some of these hitches along the course of play. Your experience, because of that, should be vastly different. So, what is the errata and how consequential has it been to the course of Vampire the Masquerade chapters? Now, just so you know, I am doing some sponsored videos with Flyos Games to advertise Vampire the Masquerade chapters. However, before this campaign was ever even announced, we'd put out about 10 videos on our own, including a full right-free, wrong-free review breaking down the highs and lows and our perspective of the game and our experience with it. So, we've been a fan of this for some time. If you want to support Quackalope and go back what I think is a pretty remarkable, fairly innovative campaign game that focuses on narrative dialogue and investigation, follow the link in the top of the video description down below to make sure that we're directing you to the campaign page, and if you back it, you'll be supporting us and what we do as well. So how consequential is the errata? Well, the errata right now, as players have been discovering it and submitting feedback and forms to Flyos Games, they have been receiving, collecting, and creating a sheet. You have a few options to look through the errata, but the primary one for people who own the game currently is to glance at the chapter headings across 4 pages of notes. The errata in our experience has not been a substantial blow to the gameplay adventure. However, I can understand, like we have experienced, if you're playing through this for the first time without having any knowledge of or having any errata in existence, like 6 months ago many of us were, or at least we were, you might be coming across things that don't make sense, and you have to make judgment calls as players to move parts of the game forward. There are a variety of little symbols here in this errata page. Some of them are bright red, and some of them are green. I'd say about 70% of the errata is less than consequential. It's number stats and little extra bonuses or redirects that you can figure out as you play or don't really throw the game off so much. But, like we have here in Chapter 15, there are some things that they note as a potential chapter-stopping instruction is missing. Add the following instruction at the bottom of the page. If all investigation area tokens have been removed from the tile, you must read Event 2. So that's important. If there's nothing left to explore, you might be sitting there as a player asking yourself, well, what do I do next? The errata has a mix of those things, with I'd say, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 chapters in our experience and reviewing through this errata page, having things that really would halt or make the game feel like you're stuck if you didn't do a little bit of house ruling and reworking yourself, with the rest of them being things that cut around corners or are fairly easy to glance at, figure out, and continue progressing forward with. Now, why does the errata exist? This is the first giant game of this scale that Flyos Games has ever put out. It's massive in scope and ambitious in the way that it presents the story. It's full of these tiny little narrative books. These books correspond with the rulebook and the storybook, all of which link up and try to tie in with one another. These books specifically have a sequence of events that can happen. Every one is like a combination of anywhere from 10 to 50 choose-your-own-adventure side quests that all interplay and tie in with each other. So along the way, you have branching pathways, you have events that lead to narrative conclusions, sometimes having multiple endings that all then could spill out to other potential things that have happened in the game. You'll get cards that have consequences for future play. You'll have narrative choices that result in a violent battle or a suave declaration of peace and a treaty for the time being. I don't know of another game who has approached their narrative and dialogue interaction in the same way that Flyos has done here. My argument from the very beginning, when we played this game for the first time in prototype form something like 3-ish years ago, is that this is remarkable and innovative. But alongside that innovation, and alongside that narrative text, and alongside that development, especially for a new publisher figuring out exactly how this all works, there come some hiccups. And so little bits and pieces get overlooked. A file gets edited and saved, but it doesn't quite follow up with the consequences. You adjust one part of the story, not looking at where it spills out to the rest of the campaign. Now, do I think and do I hope that moving forward, Flyos Games is a little bit more diligent and a little bit more careful when it comes to fine-tuning, double-checking, and refining their projects? Absolutely. But for those of you that think it's completely ridiculous to have a few pages of errata, I don't know that I agree with you. It hasn't stopped us from loving this game, from playing it off camera and going through the campaign ourselves before Flyos ever even reached out to us to collaborate on this Kickstarter project. It hasn't stopped Shira and I from wanting to explore it and being excited to do so. And yeah, there are some frustrating and some disappointing moments where the game seems to not function like it should. But this sheet, for the most part, has cleared all of those up. And as it continues to be developed and continues to grow, the errata will do the same. It'll continue refining and perfecting a game that is worth having on your shelf. A game that we're going to be spending a long time playing through. All of these dialogue booklets are that same choose-your-own-adventure mechanic, the same innovative approach. Well, when it comes to the errata and the consequences of actual gameplay, what I've found is it takes about 15 to 30 seconds to sit and review the single few, maybe 1 through 5 little pieces of errata necessary before we start playing the chapter. Then we start, and if we come across whatever the errata referenced, or we see something that feels a little off-kilter, we double-check the page and we continue moving forward with the game. It hasn't halted or stopped progress, and it's actually been a fairly simple and fairly streamlined solution for us to play the game already. But Flyos Games is paying attention and is, as far as I can tell, doing their best to provide a multitude of solutions to you, the audience, when it comes to the first printing of this game. First off, the next printing is called the Definitive Edition. It's going to have a price tag that's aggressively low because they'll be removing some of these booklets if you don't want all the booklets and you want to play with a digital app. It'll have a free app, a web-based app, and eventually a phone-based or iPad or device-based app that'll allow you to work through all of these narrative components, including the rulebook and the storybook, so that you don't have to play the game with paper and text that could change or could have rules that need to be clarified down the road. The app will allow them to do immediate and constant updates when they come across something that they want to tweak, change, or fix so that the gameplay experience is as smooth as possible. And for those of you that already own the game, they're going to be providing a printable option, a orderable option if you want to just back and buy all of the components completely updated and intact, or you could also, and they're going to be selling that at cost, or you could also get the sticker option, which will update the most consequential areas of the game. I'm not sure how the sticker option will be used when it comes to some of the small changes, like a single number here or there. We'll have to wait and see. The biggest thing for me that they're providing through this reprint is the app that's going to be open-ended to all players. I personally do like playing through the storybooks. I like handing them around the table and having people read and have you make decisions based on what you're experiencing, but if you move this game into a digital footprint and a digital format, especially with a publisher that has so much choice going on in the games that they're presenting, well, you're given the opportunity to have errata and tweaks and fan feedback applied almost instantaneously, however long it takes them to open up the web development software and tweak the numbers or change the text. So I wanted to take a look at the app with you here. They currently have a beta version of it out, so you can see, you can scroll on it. Over the next few months, they're going to be incorporating all of the game into this, so the players who currently own it or are picking it up and ordering just the new stuff off the Kickstarter can go ahead and start experiencing the game with all the errata immediately included. As far as our game group is concerned, I think we're actually going to continue playing with our printouts and the books themselves. Like I said, they haven't bothered us so much that we would change formats, but this is an option. So let's take a look. Right now they have all the prologues built out here. They also have Alex's inventory and the feeding events. The feeding events will start there. You have level 0, level 0, level 1, level 1, level 2, level 2, and only a few of them are built out here. Let's do the Montreal Horde. We're opening that up. This is going to be the district that you're going to be going to, and then the Lonely Man at the bus stop. We have a bit of flavor text here that pops up, and then we have the two options that we can do, physical or social. If I want to go do a physical action, I'll pick that, and it opens up to the next page, allowing me to then roll for my challenge. All of us are trying to feed at the same time, and depending on what we get, how much successes we have, we will have our success or our failure. If I want to go home, I'll go ahead and click through that. I could then go to Alex's inventory and look at all the beautiful things we could purchase. I assume this might shift and update depending on what you have available. And then, of course, we can go to the chapters. Like I said, they have all of the prologues currently integrated, and this is where it becomes very interesting because it works pretty darn well. We have the front of the little prologue book here. We can swipe if we'd like. The full introduction that breaks down the narrative and gives us our setup with our token and the artwork immediately there on the board, replacing the big old storybook that I have here to the side. I move down and I have the dialogue book. These are going to be these little small books, and we have the different people we can talk with. So if I wanted to skip to a specific location, I got to open that up again. If I wanted to skip to a specific location, I would open up the table of contents here. We have dialogue, investigation, final deduction, and events. Let's say I was going to go check the desk. Level 1, level 2, you see all the different cues you have, but I just want to go ahead and do the desk immediately. So table of contents, do the desk, we pop in here. We read the introduction, and then we decide how we're going to interact with it. Clean up the surface of the desk or rifle through your drawers. Read introduction number 2. Then I continue if I have clue token number 1, or if not, I may make a mental check. Let's say I made a mental check and didn't do so well. Read number 3. Then I have a few clues here. Let's read guess 6.3, and then we have an event that's going to happen after that guess, changing the board, and then we could go to Lydia Masquerade, Dialogue D1. Now we're engaged in a story, a conversation with Lydia, and we can try to make a social or a insight or intimidation roll. Let's say we failed our intimidation roll, we'll go to Dialogue 0.02. Let's say we don't trust her, we'll go to Dialogue 8, and then we're going to try to bring the conversation back to something beneficial. We'll go to Dialogue number 9, and then let's say we succeed here, Dialogue 10, read the final deduction, and here we have our answers. If you have any of these success tokens, we must read this ending, and then we continue progressing forward, and we have the end of the storybook, or the end of that chapter. It plays well, it clicks through nicely. Right now, the only feedback I'd have is I've pressed this button to go to the table of contents a few times, so changing that graphic or making it a little bit more obvious that that's sending me home, whereas this is opening up the table or the index of the book, is very nice. But this is going to be an immediate solution for all those that have experienced frustration during the course of play or have discovered the errata for the rest of us. This is going to allow us to update, change, and develop the game, potentially even opening up new scenarios and creating new storylines as Flyos Games continues supporting and releasing content. I'm excited about this. I absolutely love these, and my opinion on the errata, now please keep in mind we do have a relationship with, and we are doing sponsored content with Flyos Games, but I don't think they even wanted me to make this video. And yet, my opinion on the Errata is it hasn't stopped our course of play. Do I wish it wasn't there? Yeah, of course. Absolutely. I'd love if every game that showed up to me was perfect in all regards. But ambitious campaign games oftentimes aren't. And while I do think this has more errata than the average campaign game I've experienced, it also has more choice and more dialogue and more narrative progression than any of the campaign games I've experienced. I think the app's a great solution for those of you that are looking for that option, and it reduces the amount of space and printed material that you have to have on your game shelf. But if you don't like playing with an app and you still want to experience Vampire the Masquerade chapters, this is still an excellent way to start. Just keep in mind, you might have one or two conditions you should pay attention to while you're playing through the game. Hopefully this was a fair and detailed look into what the Errata is, how consequential it has been, how Flyos Games is going to be providing solutions to you, the backer, and whether or not you, as a player, should start playing now or pick up a copy of the game either through this reprint or when copies are hopefully available down the line once the second printing is finished. Whatever the case, though, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Always dot your I's, cross your T's, slash your Q's, and punt your P's. We'll see you later. If you're wondering what all that means, I have no idea either, but it's like 6 a.m. and I'm finishing up some videos.